Welcome, everybody, to the Free Minds Thrive podcast. My name is Bobby Vincench. I am really happy to be here with you today because I have a hot topic to talk about, and that is getting into your kids' world. So if you're a parent out there, or if you know a parent, or if someday you hope to be a parent, or if you have grandkids or nieces, nephews, it doesn't really matter. I want to talk to you a little bit about getting into their world as a way to ensure that they know you pay attention to them and that you know more about the kids in your life. This is something I see happening all the time where parents are disengaged, disconnected from their kids and what's going on in their kids' lives, and I want to make sure that you are equipped with the awareness and some of the tools for getting involved in your kids' world. We're in a world where things are so busy, so crazy, so distracting. There's so many things vying for our attention. But there's one thing I want you to think about that's so important. And I want you to keep it top of mind every single day when your kids are around you. I don't care what else you have going on in your life. There's nothing more important than your kids. Maybe survival. That's about maybe the only thing I could think somebody could argue is, well, in order for my kids to be taken care of, I have to provide. I have to protect. I have to make sure I can do these other things. So in that way, we're not going to get, stuck in the weeds on this one. Essentially, your kids are one of your top priorities, right? And as a really good parent, you probably consider them the top priority along with your spouse. Because if you don't have a happy spouse, you don't have a happy house, and then things tend to fall apart anyway, even if you're totally focused on the kid. But other than that, your kid is a massive priority. And yet, I notice that the older kids get, the more a lot of parents kind of disconnect. Part of that is to give the kid independence. You want to give them freedom. You want to let them run free, figure their own things out. You don't want to always be hovering as a helicopter dad, helicopter mom. And I have a tendency of doing that because I have one daughter and I want to protect her at all costs. And I do give her freedom in her room, but also I'm always paying attention, right? I'm on top of everything. You're going to figure out the right balance for you. But what is a non-negotiable is that you have to get in on your kids' world. Whatever their interests are, whatever TV shows they're watching, whatever video games they're playing, the songs they're listening to, the friends they're hanging out with, their various passions that they're engaged in and the things they love to do, drawing, singing, dancing, whatever it is, get into that world with them so that instead of them finding a connection with other people on the things that matter most to them and disconnecting from the people who care most about them, which is their parents, typically, if you're a good parent. And there are some not good parents out there, right? I assume everybody listening to this episode right now is a great parent if you're a parent. However, chances are there are people out there who are just not good parents who are listening to this and are probably getting really annoyed that I'm even bringing it up. But we're going to go ahead and say it anyway. There are some bad parents, not subjectively bad parents, objectively bad parents. And I would argue that without doing it on purpose, some people are mismanaging their parenting by not being more involved with their kids, especially as they get older into their teen years. You were a kid once, you were a teenager once. You didn't enjoy feeling alone. You didn't enjoy feeling misunderstood. Our teenagers are going to do that anyway. They're going to feel misunderstood. They think nobody gets them, nobody understands them. But the more involved the big players in their life are, the parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, right? All the people that they feel like they can trust, the more involved those people are on a day-to-day basis, the more likely the kid is to feel like somebody gets them. Even if they don't totally feel like you understand, you know that you do. Now, if you're not paying attention to the music they're listening to, the songs they're singing, the messages that are entering into their head and latching on and becoming part of who they're becoming, right? They're becoming the music. They're becoming those messages. They're watching TV shows and you're just letting them watch whatever on YouTube, watch whatever on their phone. Not to say you should control everything, but you should be aware, especially in the later years. You may not want to control everything when your kid's 16, 17, and of course, once they're 18, they can do whatever the heck they want, typically. If you're under my roof and I'm paying the bills, you're not doing anything you want, but you'll have a lot more freedom. All these messages are coming into their head from friends and their families, right? Their family's ideas, their friends' ideas are coming into your child's mind when that person is getting close to your child and they're starting to trust each other more and more the more they hang out. And the more your kid hangs out with other people who are showing an interest in their interests, right? Because they're probably going to make friends who share some interests. Sometimes it's a matter of convenience. You're friends with people who are convenient to be friends with. But many times you're gravitating towards people who have some kind of connection to the things you have a connection to, right? Now, if your parents had given up on you long ago, stopped getting into your world, stopped leaning down into the pictures you were drawing, stopped peeking into the room as you're listening to music and jamming out, so they no longer understand what you're listening to. Whereas maybe when you were a baby, you were a toddler, you were a kid, you were a bigger kid, maybe they were paying more and more attention and staying involved, and then it started to wane and they started to space out. They're like, well, this kid's more autonomous now. This kid's more independent. Now I can finally breathe because I've been raising this kid and it's been so much work, and I can get back to me, right? As a parent, I can get back to me, focusing on myself again. Sometimes we disconnect too much. And there are so many things bombarding your kid, especially once you take one of these bad boys. I have my phone recording me on Instagram, but somewhere around here is a tablet and I can't find it. But anyway, they have a screen in their face. Imagine this is the screen right here. See it? They have a screen in their face, and through that screen, they have access to the entire world. So previously, like when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, there was not a way for me to directly connect to all the world all the time and see all the things. Unfiltered, unrestricted access. Most parents are not aware of technology and basic settings to set parental restrictions and things like that. And even if they do, they're not necessarily paying attention to who their kid's hanging out with and what they're doing when they're with those kids. And they're just connecting to the world through their other kids' houses, right? Through their TVs, through their phones, through their whatevers. And so we can't control everything, but we can make our kid aware that we're always there and we get them, that our kid and us are still connected. And I know parents like this who have teenagers, right? Who have stayed connected with their teenager to where they're still trusted by the kid. They still feel like the parent understands them. And this is what I try to do with the teenagers in my life, is make sure that they know I understand them, or at least that I care enough to try. A lot of parents get frustrated once they lose that trust with the kid, once they lose that connection and that, in a sense, rapport that you once had when your kid had to listen to everything you said, when you had to be in your kid's world because they might choke on something or, trip and fall or try to climb something they shouldn't be climbing and fall off when they were younger. Now they're older and you feel like, I can get a little space. You start to go to the gym again. You start to hang out with friends again. You start to get back into your passions and you love it. Now you're free and they're free. But space starts to form. And then when you need to step in as a parent, because you still love your kid, you still care about your kid, it's that much harder to get them to even listen to you, let alone for you to even understand what's going on with them. Right? They bring a problem to you, but they're not willing to tell you everything because they no longer trust you that way. And you don't get to hear everything, so you're misjudging what the situation is to begin with. So your advice is not entirely relevant as you're giving it because you still want to be there for your kid in this urgent emergency situation, but the kid is hearing advice and ideas that just don't understand the full story. Then they get frustrated, then you get frustrated, and you got teen angst and hormones against a parent who feels like they have lost control of their kid or lost influence over their kid's life. And what happens? Chaos. And now your kid has to go to somebody to help them out. Somebody's got to help your kid out because they're looking for answers. They're looking for support. They're looking for someone. Where are they going to find it? Where are they going to find that support? On TikTok? On Instagram? Are they going to find that support on where? If you have a teenager in your life, if it's your child, if it's your niece, your nephew, your grandkid, if it's a friend's kid who looks up to you and trusts you, either way, whatever it is, eventually, if you lose that trust, if they don't feel you understand them, you're not going to be able to get involved in their life and help them out. And when they're looking for answers, they're going to find it in other places that perhaps are all the wrong places according to your parenting style and your philosophy, where you tried to protect your kid all their life from certain messages that were bad for their mind. You tried to keep your kid away from certain influences that were bad for them, but now mom and dad don't understand me anymore. Or whatever your situation is for that kid, somebody who they should be able to trust, who supposedly loves them the most, who is their caretaker, their guardian, their protector, their guide, their support, their parent or guardian has lost that connection. So one thing I try to do with my daughter is I try to be very, very involved in all of her world. Whatever that world is, I want to be there. Even if I don't care for it, meaning it's not my thing, but it's her thing. And I want to make sure that my daughter always knows that Daddy always understood me. Daddy was always involved in my life. My dad was always there and cared. So that when she's older, and I still know the music she's listening to, because I won't stop. If she starts listening to a band, I'm going to start listening to that band. If she starts playing a certain video game, I'm going to know what that video game is and what it's all about. I'm going to know what the culture on that video game is about. And you might say, where are you going to find the time for all that? My daughter is the most important thing to me in the whole world, besides, of course, my wife. The most important thing. Nothing comes before her. I'll do another episode on this someday, but I determined the other day for the first time ever that there is someone I love more than myself. I love my daughter more than I love myself. I care about her more than I care about myself. Why? How do I know that? I know that because there are certain things I know are good and not good for a person that I want to make sure she abides by so that she is the healthiest she could be, the happiest she could be. But when it comes to my life, I will sometimes make exceptions with those things and allow those things into my life. Things that are poisonous, mentally or physically, from time to time, right? Even though I know they're not good for me. But with my daughter, it's like, never. Don't poison her. Don't disrupt her. Don't hurt her. I discovered that I love my daughter or care about my daughter more than I care about myself. And I will tell you, not from an egotistical standpoint, just from a practical standpoint, I really do love myself more than I care about anything else. I love life. I'm one of those people who absolutely loves life, right? So when I'm thinking about my daughter and when I'm thinking about kids in my life, for those of you who have young kids, older kids, teenagers, you have to be in their world. Otherwise, they don't trust you. And now the influence over their life is going to be TikTok and Instagram and you know, most kids aren't on Facebook anymore, but Facebook. It's going to be the movies and the TV shows. It's going to be the celebrities, those idiot celebrities who half the time don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they'll always give you an opinion on worldly matters and sound like a moron trying to give it. And yet these kids, the way some of them feel about these celebrities, the way they idolize them, they trust what they say, sometimes more than their own mom and dad. What a tragedy that is. Those celebrities don't care about your kids. They care about money. They care about their celebrity status. Your kid is just another fan paying them money. They don't care. Some celebrities care about kids, but they lose that once they rise to the top and they're in that whole wacky world, that celebrity world. So who's raising your kids once they don't trust you anymore? It's all the other influences. Now, you can't stop that from happening. You can't stop the other influences from affecting and impacting your kid. They're gonna happen. You do the best you can in your own way, right? I'm not telling you how to do that. What I'm telling you is whatever you decide to allow your kid to be exposed to, whenever you decide to allow them to be exposed to it. I've got my own ideas about that. Thank God I homeschool, because I don't got to worry about how the school and the teachers and that system is impacting my kid. But I do have to think intentionally about when I allow certain things into her life, right? She's still young. But a lot of kids her age I see already have unrestricted access to YouTube, to screens, to watching TV, to listening to any music. They're singing songs that sound very low vibration music. You know what I'm saying? Low vibration, like stupid. So very stupid music. Whereas there's no high vibration music. There's no music that is enriching you and empowering you and filling you with stuff that actually is going to help you grow and thrive in the world. It's dumb music. It's stuff I listened to as a kid that I am so lucky I somehow escaped, but yet so many people didn't. It affects your intelligence for the rest of your life because the thoughts in your mind, like the food in your body, become you. And so it's the same for our kids. But I won't judge you where you decide to make certain decisions. I don't have all the answers. But I will tell you that you absolutely must stay involved in your kids' lives, or you're going to lose them. And who better to be involved in their lives, to be trusted by them, than the parents who are supposed to love them the most. That's you. So if you think about what I'm saying and you think about some of the problems that several of you, many of you, are facing as parents out there, as grandparents, as role models for some kids in your life, and you think about, how much do I understand my kid? Ask yourself this question. How much do I really understand my kid? Go through the checklist with me. How much do I know all their friends? Do all their friends know that I'm involved? That no matter what the friends try to do, the parent is, in essence, in some way, part of the friendship. You're not going to come and be part of my daughter's life without somehow having me involved in the situation. I'm not going to be in the middle of the friendship. I need to know what that friend's all about. I need to have some awareness. I might not know all the secrets, and I don't want to. I might not know all the stories and all the things and all the background. That's for their friendship. But I need to know enough that when my daughter comes to me about that friend because something happened between them, or my daughter comes to me about that friend because of whatever it is, that friend gave advice or that friend said something or whatever it is, that I know what that situation's about so that I can still continue to be the trusted protector, the trusted guide, the trusted parent. Do you know what music your kid is listening to? If they're young, chances are you do, because you're probably turning it on for them. But if they're a little bit older, getting into those pre-teen years, getting into those teen years, do you know the artist they're listening to? What the messages are, so you can have conversations with them about it? Intellectual, high vibration, high frequency conversations? Deep conversations about messages? We're all going to get exposed to music with terrible messages in it. Music with terrible, terrible messages. But if you know better, if you think about those things, you can keep them from negatively affecting you. If I'm aware that the message is bad, but I enjoy the song, maybe I like the beat, maybe I like to dance to it, but I'm not a fan of the message, knowing that I'm thinking about the message consciously, I can think about it and I can make sure it doesn't impact me. It's almost like a point of conversation listening to the song. It's like, it's a stupid message, but I like the song. I like that beat. Your kid may not have that unless they talk with their parent about it. Chances are their friends aren't talking to them in a deep way, in a meaningful, intentional way about the lyrics and messages in the music they listen to. But their parent could. Especially if their parent knows the song and can relate to it because they know the song. The kid can't run away and say, "You don't understand my music." I know that song. What are you talking about? I know that artist. I probably know more about them than you do because I looked them up. Because my kid listens to them. I'm going to be the cool dad. The corny, cheesy, cool dad. The kids are like, "Your dad's so cool." But my daughter's like, "My dad's annoying. He's so weird. Why does he have to love my stuff?" Now, my hope is she doesn't have that attitude. I see other kids with that attitude. Hate it. But assuming she may feel that way and not just be totally open. And I see some people, by the way, with really awesome, healthy relationships with their kids to where their kids don't think it's weird that their parents involved. And I think that's part of just being involved the whole time. Now, some of you are getting very annoyed by what I'm saying. You're very upset because this is challenging how you've brought your kid up so far, especially if they're a teenager and you've lost control. And I encourage you not to take this as an offensive conversation, not to take this personally, although it is personal for you, but to take it as an opportunity to recalibrate, to reflect. You're reflecting right now, you're thinking about it, and then to recalibrate the situation based on what it is, right? This is not an opportunity. I am not criticizing you. I'm not telling you you intentionally did something wrong or that I could even have done better if I hadn't ended up in the position I'm in to be thinking about this in advance, right? I might have done the same things if I didn't have the right elements at play in my life for me to be thinking about this so far ahead. So don't take it personally, please. I'm going to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm going to tell you the truth as I understand it. You may like that. You may not. You might not agree with what I'm saying. You might say, "I don't want to be involved in my kid's life. Once they were 15, I said, I don't want to be part of this anymore." That's what you did. But sometimes we make mistakes. The question is, do you keep compounding on that mistake and keep marching forward with it out of stubbornness? Or now that you're aware of it, do you say, "All right, that's kind of annoying that I'm being challenged on this, but yeah, I kind of have lost connection with my kid." Right? So I started asking you a series of questions. I asked you, do you know who your kids are hanging out with, who their friends are, what those friendships are all about? Do you know the music your kid's listening to and what those messages are? Do you know it well enough that they can't say you don't get it? Do you know the movies they're watching? Hey, I know you were with your friends last night. What movie did you guys watch? Oh, some horror film, whatever. Most of the time, parents would just walk away. I'm encouraging you to dig in, lean in, not in a negative way, not in a judgy way, but lean in, learn more, show interest. Oh, that's cool. What movie were you guys watching? I don't want to tell you. You're probably going to have something to say about it. Now, that'll be your choice if you have something to say about it. But if you really want to understand what the movie was, so maybe you can go watch the movie, right? If your kid is watching a movie and they're a teenager and you just say, I don't care what movies they're watching, and you walk away, they know you don't understand them. You don't understand the movies. You don't understand the references. You don't understand any of that. But if you want to be one of the parents who gets it, you understand what your kid is talking about so that your kid trusts you and can lean back into you. So you keep a healthy relationship through all their years because they're like, hey, my parent was always there, always involved. I couldn't shake them. I couldn't get away from them. But I'm so glad they were always there, right? They might express to you that it's annoying you're always there and always involved, but they will appreciate it when the times come that they need to know they can trust their parent. It's your job not to run scurrying away like you're a nuisance, like you're a pest. When your kid is like, you're annoying, and they start getting to that age. It's your job to show them, I don't care how annoying I am. I freaking love you, my child, and I'm going to stay here right where I am because you're my kid. And that's why so many parents of teenagers especially, I don't know if anybody out there who's listening to this is aware, but at the moment of this recording, I am doing online classes for teenagers, confidence classes, coaching, things like that. I have a teen club as well. And I'm doing it to try to get these kids thinking in the right direction, right? And as I'm doing that, I am noticing, as I'm listening in to more of the conversations parents are having about their teenagers, a mass frustration that parents have with losing their kids. Now, has it always been that way? That's a question. Has it always been that way, that parents lose connection with their kids at some point? I don't think so, to tell you the truth. Yes, they go their own way. Yes, they make their own lives. Yes, they have their own friendships. That's not the point. The point is there are more influences, external influences over all of our minds, all of our lives, just bombarding us every single day. That it's no surprise that your kid, once they start engaging the world, especially through those damn screens, once they start doing that, which is why I advocate for introducing screens later in life. If you're going to do it early, it should be very controlled and to an absolute minimum. They'll learn it eventually. They don't need to learn it at 3 years old how to use a phone. They'll figure it out. I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 80s and 90s. I figured out how to use computers, and I know how to use them and fix them and troubleshoot them better than most kids who are teenagers today who grew up with phones all their lives, right? So you can learn anytime, as long as you are a learning type of person. You're a student of life. If you're a student of life and always curious, you can learn anything at any time. So your kid's going to learn. They're going to pick it up like that. It's shocking how quick kids pick things up. But once you enter into that phone, it's not just a phone. This isn't like a Game Boy from back in the day where you take a cartridge, pop the thing in, and that's the game they're playing. That phone is connected to a data connection, wireless data connection, whether it's to your router in your house or the 5G, 4G signals out there in the world, which eventually will get even crazier and crazier, faster and faster, right? Instantaneous information. That phone is a direct link to the entire world. And have you been paying attention? All the stuff out there is not good. Is your kid equipped yet to engage the entire world and all the information bombarding them at such a young age? I argue no. So I advocate for screens at a later age, especially in an autonomous way, where the kid is independently using the screen and you're not really sure what they're doing. But why I say that is that once the kid is connected to that and to that world, that's all the stuff that's impacting them. It's the same for us as adults. I mean, we are just being bombarded at all times. And one of the only things they're going to have is an anchor back down to reality, an anchor back down to, in a way, themselves. Because once you're connected to the world out there and to other people, you start losing yourself a bit to conformity. You start losing yourself to all the noise. It's powerful. Oh, everyone else is doing it this way. Maybe I'll start to do it that way. Ooh, I want to be accepted by everyone. Let me do it the way the world is doing it. Ooh, the algorithm on TikTok or whatever app you're using is telling me that this is the way the world works. This is what people are looking for. This is how I need to be. So you start to shapeshift. You start to change. And maybe that's not at the core who you really are, but you start to become other things. That's inevitable, right? The world is going to impact all of us. We're all going to evolve based on our interactions with everything. But there's never been a time in all of known history, as far as we're aware of, where you've had so many different things impacting your life and who you are. And as I talk to more and more parents, as I am teaching kids and coaching kids, teenagers, I'm hearing the frustration of parents who are like, I can't do this. I've lost them. They don't listen to me. They don't do anything. I don't understand them anymore. And it's frustrating, especially for somebody who raised the kid and loved them and remembered when they were cute and fun and liked to be around, and now they don't. It's possible that a time comes when hope is lost and it's too late and it's hard to reconnect and get back in. It's possible somebody could argue that. But I'm a relentless pursuer of what I know can be possible, meaning that in my mind, even if I felt like all hope is lost, reconnecting with my kid or getting back into their world without it being awkward or me feeling weird about it or feeling like, this is just the way it is now, I don't accept those things. I'm the kind of person who goes all in if I feel that something needs to be the way I want it to be. I feel like I have the power to do that. I think all of you should feel empowered to do that. Oh, but my kid's 18 now. Now they're just going to go off on their own. Are they still living in your house? Are you still paying most of their bills? Are they going off to college and you're paying for that? Or they're going to college from home? No, they're not totally an adult doing things on their own. Maybe legally they can technically go out there and do anything on their own, but you're still the parent. Parents have lost their power in many ways. And it's mostly a mental thing. You haven't lost much of your power in actuality, right? Practically, you still can apply your power as a parent. You have more influence over your kid and more power than you know. And the fact that you let the kid take control is part of the problem. Now, even as you give your kid room to grow and find themselves and be themselves, and you give them the freedom to create and express, which I try very hard to give my daughter, in the end, you're still the parent. You're still the one who protects them. And it's a lot harder to protect somebody who doesn't trust you. Your kid might trust you in some ways because they're like, well, that's my parent. They're there. They cook me dinner. They feed me. They help me get my car fixed when it breaks down once they start driving. But it's a lot harder for that kid to want to listen to you if they don't think you understand them anymore. If now their friends understand them better, right? If the algorithm on social media and a search engine and incoming artificial intelligence starts to understand your kid better than you do, who do you think they're going to go to? Who do you think they're going to trust? So to end this episode, I want to advocate for all of you. I want to encourage all of you. In a way, I want to empower you by telling you it's more than possible. It's necessary, and you have every right and every ability to do this. You need to get into your kid's world and lean in. If I had a friend who understood something well, and I had a parent who I know raised me from childhood that deep down, embedded in my mind and my heart and my soul, this person truly I know loves me more than anybody. If I had a parent like that, I would trust my parent more than anybody else. But once kids feel like they can't trust that parent anymore as much, that they don't get them, that's when you lose it. So if you're telling yourself, I don't know what songs my kids listen to, or kid, I don't know what artists they like the most or what those artists are even saying. I have no idea what apps they're using and what the culture is like on those apps. No idea what video games they're playing and what the culture is like on those video games. The more you know that, the more they will trust you and lean into you as you are trying to lean into them. But they need to feel understood. And understood is not just shouting at your kid out of frustration because you're losing control and you're getting frustrated, so you're shouting out of loss of control. That is not great parenting. You're losing control. You need to think practically. You can only drop the hammer for so long until you can't drop it anymore, and dropping it fractures the relationship. Eventually, that doesn't work. You can't just be the screaming mom and dad. And you might actually be causing your kid more problems by just screaming at them out of frustration because they don't even understand themselves. Their brains aren't even fully developed. Yours probably is if you're a parent, or is close to being developed. So you have very few excuses, even if you grew up with your own traumas and your own things. You at least have a developed mind. You at least should know better. The reason you yell and flip out is you have lost control. And I'm inviting you to contemplate and consider that maybe part of gaining control back is having more influence over your kid and having more of their trust. And how do you do that? You show them that you care, that you're interested in their world and the things that they're doing, and that you are trustworthy because you can relate. That's not going to be like you're their best friend necessarily. That's up to you and what your relationship is like with your kids. But I'll tell you what, you absolutely, positively need your kid to trust you. And at some point they lose that again as they are out there in the world, listening to other people, doing other things. They lose their trust in you. You don't get them anymore. I was a teenager. You guys were teenagers. You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a parent out there, if you're a grandparent, if you're an uncle, if you're a friend who's like an aunt or uncle to your friends' kids, you were teenagers once. You have to be. You have to crush that threshold to become an older adult. You didn't skip it unless you were in a coma or something, but that's very unlikely. What are the chances? What's the percentage of people that were in a coma their whole childhood and then woke up as an adult and said, I never got to experience that. We all experienced it. You know what it feels like as you're going through those changes. Nobody gets you. Nobody understands. Nobody cares. You're frustrated. You're confused. You got all this angst and all this pent up hormonal stuff going on. You're looking for somebody who might get you. And even though as a teenager, you're unlikely to ever think anybody really totally understands you, I as an adult don't feel that everybody totally and completely understands me. But I'm okay with it. As a teenager, that's a very hard thing to deal with. And so you look for somebody who gets you, somebody who cares. In a perfect world, that's your mom and dad. Now, some people don't have a mom and or a dad for whatever reason, whatever the reason is. Or they have some other situation in their household. They have stepmom and dad, or they have, other caretakers or guardians, whatever it is, right? Everybody's different. But in a perfect world, we can all agree you'd have a mom and you'd have a dad, and you'd have the balance, and you would trust them, and they would get you, and they would care, and they would be patient with you. And they would lean in and want to know who you are and what you're all about. And so I'm encouraging you, wherever you are in the journey with your child, to keep this top of mind. And if action is needed and warranted right now in your life, if you need to step in and lean in and get that relationship back, do it now. Don't sit there stuck in your mind and your thoughts. Do something. If you're like, man, that's not how I have been doing it with my kid. We are so disconnected. Reconnect. Well, how do I do that? They don't even want to hang out with me. Take them on a date. I do daddy-daughter dates with my daughter. My wife does mommy-daughter dates with our daughter. You know why? Because I need my one-on-one separated time with my daughter away from our household, away from her friends, away from her typical environment, so that I can connect with her. I will always have daddy-daughter dates with my kid. My wife will too, with her. And we will have them together. I will always know the music my daughter's listening to, the movies she's watching, the celebrities she's paying attention to and crushing on. God forbid. I will always know who her friends are, what those relationships are like. I will always be there to understand her problems. And even though I won't understand all of it, and even though she'll have her own life, she can always count on her dad and her mom understanding her, and she could trust that we get her life. And I'm encouraging all of you to do the same thing if you have kids. Make sure your kid can trust you and knows that you know what they're going through and what's going on in their life. And that's it. And the question isn't, will it work? The question is, will you do it? Because if you do it, it will work. There's no other way about it. That's how human connection works. I know that people who get the things I'm interested in or care about the things I care about, I trust that they understand me to some degree because we share that. And so if my parents did the same thing, I would trust them and I would have that connection with them. It's when kids start to feel like their parents don't get them anymore, that they're living in different worlds. And I blame the public education system partly for that, but not entirely, making kids feel like they're separated from the rest of the world. You need that connection. And so go get it if you need it now. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening. I hope for the parents out there that you take this advice and this idea to heart. If you have any questions, if you need any help, if you need any guidance, please reach out to me. Please check out my company, Free Minds Thrive, at freemindsthrive.com. If you're an adult and you need some direct guidance and assistance, go ahead and check out my coaching program at Free Minds Thrive, which is called Your Thriving Legacy. We've got one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I'm happy to help, happy to be there for anybody who needs it. And if your kid can use some more solid, positive, inspirational role models, go ahead and check out my classes online, my online teen club. See if that's something you think might be good for them. Go out there and do some awesome things, and I will see you in the next episode.